Hello everyone! Have you ever wondered what this logo stands for? It's the GOTS label, which stands for Global Organic Textile Standard. Woot! And today in this very short video we're going to explain to you, we're going to try to do it in 2 minutes, we're going to explain to you what GOTS stands for, why it is considered to be one of the most hardcore certifications in sustainable fashion, and why buying GOTS products is like going to a vegan restaurant. Boom! So welcome to another episode of the Sustainability Show. This channel is sponsored by Honest Basics. Find the links below. Also, please subscribe to our channel. Please like the button if you like it. Please leave comments if you want more info or something like that. So first of all, let's do a quick overview again of the supply chain of a t-shirt, because there are so many steps. So it starts on the cotton field. Then we have ginning, which means that the raw cotton, the raw organic cotton, is changed into something useful, is cleaned, blah 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 blah. Then with this organic cotton, the spinning mill turns it into yarns. Then next step is to turn the yarns to knit them like your grandma used to do, or on an industrial machine, turn them into fabric. The fabric is then dyed into its final color. And then once the fabric is ready, it's cut and sewn into a final t-shirt, such as this one. Yes, so keep this supply chain in mind when you're watching this video. This will help you to understand what GOTS exactly does. So starting at the beginning, GOTS certifies that the input fibers of a final product need to be at least 70% organic input. So there are two levels of GOTS certification. The lowest one is with organic content, which you can see on the label. We'll have a look at that later. This means that at least 70% of the final product was made with organic input. And then there is GOTS organic, which means that at least 95% of the end product is made with organic content. So organic can mean organic cotton, organic hemp, organic linen, whatever. So this is where GOTS starts. But however, GOTS itself doesn't focus so much on the cotton field. It says yes, the input is indeed organic. However, GOTS itself focuses on the middle part of the supply chain. So everything from ginning until sewing needs to follow the GOTS standards. We consider GOTS to be a quite hardcore certification because it focuses not only on the ecological impact of production, but also on the working conditions in the supply chain. And we see often with other certifications that it focuses either only on the working conditions or only on the ecological impact of production. However, GOTS is such a complete package kind of, because it really focuses on both these pillars of sustainability. So the main points of how the GOTS standard helps to reduce the ecological impact of production. First of all, the production process needs to be entirely separated from normal production. So this makes sure that your final GOTS product doesn't accidentally receive normal non-organic fibers in it. In a dyeing factory, for example, you see signs like, hey, this is a GOTS dyeing machine and this will only be used for GOTS production and not for normal production. Then there are very strict regulations on the chemical inputs that can be used in the entire supply chain. So not just the dyeing and washing, but also during spinning and knitting. Sometimes chemicals are used to make the process easier, smoother. However, these chemicals are quite often toxic, bad for the environment and bad for the people that are working with them. And GOTS restricts a whole lot of them. Then GOTS sets regulations, minimum regulations for each factory, or for each part of the supply chain, on wastewater treatment, they need to have a plan in place to reduce energy and water. And finally, we call it restriction on accessories, but just to show again how comprehensive and how detailed the GOTS certification is, there are restrictions on the chemicals that can be used to print. There are restrictions on the materials that can be used for the labels, for the buttons, for the packaging, etc. There are quite strict regulations that each part of the product and each part of the supply chain needs to follow to be allowed to be called a GOTS product. Then moving on to the social side. So On the side, yes. So GOTS follows the guidelines of the International Labour Organization. The International Labour Organization is part of the United Nations, which tries to promote fair working conditions throughout the entire world. And so each step of the supply chain, by becoming GOTS certified, must follow these rules. And the rules are, for example, that employment must be freely chosen, so no forced labor of any kind, no child labor, of course. What else? There's the worker should have the right to unionize. There should be no excessive overtime, and working conditions must be safe and hygienic. And again, so each part of the supply chain must follow these rules and is checked against this also, which brings us to the next step. Yeah, so overall, I mean, it sounds good, right? There is organic input, there is strongly reduced ecological impact, and the working conditions in the entire supply chain are good. And how does GOTS make sure that indeed this entire supply chain follows their guidelines, their rules? To do this, they have a certification system, which we're now going to explain to you shortly. First of all, there are independent certifying agencies which check each step of the supply chain. And these are companies also that are really independent from brands and independent from factories, independent from GOTS even, that are just there to check if everybody is following the GOTS rules. And there are two types of certifications which each step of the supply chain need to have. First of all, there's the scope certificate. So a scope certificate says, for example, that company C is allowed to dye a fabric, but only to dye a fabric. So, for example, they're not allowed to do sewing, they're not allowed to do this, because they're only allowed to dye fabric according to the GOTS regulations. And secondly, there are the transaction certificates, which follow a product. It starts, of course, with organic cotton input, and then it follows each and every step of the supply chain till the very end. So this makes sure these quite different hardcore certifications make sure that the entire supply chain is certified and following GOTS rules, and that each product is indeed a GOTS product and not a fake product. Yes, definitely not 2 minutes. Yes, so then how can you know if a product is really GOTS certified? There's a logo here, which you can find usually in the product or also on the packaging. You see then the organic or made with organic content, which stipulates, the level of organic material input. And then there is a certifier number. You can go to the GOTS website. We put the link also below. Go to the GOTS website, go to the public database, and then put the number in. So in our case, if you put it in, you find the agency that we work with, and you can find their details, etc. So this system gives you as a customer the ability to double check if you are really buying GOTS products and it's not a fake one, and gives an extra level of transparency. So why is buying GOTS products similar to going to a vegan restaurant? Well, if you go to a vegan restaurant, you are sure that you can eat anything off the menu. And we think with GOTS it's kind of similar because it has such a comprehensive, such a complete approach to sustainability. Thank you, by the way, Karl-Heinz, for this analogy. So GOTS specifies that that the material input is organic. It strongly reduces the ecological impact. It makes sure that each step in the supply chain, in each step, the working conditions are good. And finally, there's also a very strong and comprehensive certification system, which makes sure that indeed these guidelines are followed. So when you buy a GOTS product, you really can be sure that you are buying a product up to the highest levels of sustainability. Thank you very much. We hope you liked this video. Please subscribe. Yeah, please subscribe. Please like. Please leave a comment and let us know your thoughts. Thank you very much.